The safety and reliability of your dirt or dual sport motorcycle depend upon the quality of the final drive system. The sprockets and chain on our Honda XR650R motorcycle are badly worn and in need of replacement. The chain adjustment is correct, but the badly worn chain has been whipping sideways and taken out the slider while also destroying the aluminum rear sprocket. This chain and sprockets and the slider are original equipment on this motorcycle. Considering the side whip of this chain and the 55 horsepower output from the XR650R fresh rebuild, this chain situation is dangerous. For a desert enduro motorcycle that doubles as the magazine's video filming platform in the field, we need to improve on this system. Chain and slider material is evident. The rear sprocket is shedding, and you can see aluminum in this debris. Miles from nowhere, this could create a real hazard in a situation where the motorcycle is unreliable. This final drive system needs repair, and removal of this chain begins with an archaic cell, chain breaker, and rivet kit. The UTC 2100 series chainbreaker press fit and rivet tool will quickly and easily break number 40 and number 50 series chain. It easily press fits tight tolerance 40, 50, and 60 O-ring chain side plates to the correct depth for the clip or rivet link installation. This tool also flares RK's special pinhole rivet links to the proper dimension to secure the side plates in place. And the new design allows components to lock into the tool body and larger pressure bolt for easier use without dropping components. This tool works with most brands of chain, although our choice in this case is RK chain. This rugged cutting pin is a replaceable item that can be serviced periodically. Align the tool carefully and the pin will press readily straight through the chain. The handle is easy to grip, and a box end wrench will easily turn the small pressure bolt. This tool is the best way to press the pin out of an endless chain. Despite the pressure required to break the pin on a 520 chain, the tool is unscathed. This original chain was an endless chain of O-ring type. Now we'll carefully remove the separated chain. Make sure you protect the cases. You can see how vulnerable the engine cases and other parts are if the chain should happen to break. If the chain should break while operating the motorcycle, you would have an extreme safety hazard as well. Both sprockets show radically uneven wear patterns from the whipping chain. The steel front sprocket also shows a dangerous wobble. Fortunately, the front sprocket is an OEM hardness. Not being excessively hard, there's no fear at this point that the countershaft splines are damaged. Remove the sprocket retainer plate evenly. The sprocket should slide off readily at this point, despite the debris. What appears to be rust is actually fretting. Fretting is caused by the friction of two components that are moving with a great deal of force and vibration. Fortunately, the hard splines of the countershaft show no damage. We'll replace the front swingarm guide with a Honda original equipment replacement part. The original equipment retainer screws are Phillips head. Exposed to moisture and corrosion, these screw heads are notorious for stripping out. We turn to an impact driver with a number 2 Phillips bit to remove these screws. This screw head is ruined, and we have to replace these screws. We have a better solution than returning to the Phillips head screws. Remove the old guide. Note the wear and damage to this guide. Do not reuse worn parts. Use a suitable solvent to clean up the countershaft. Do not use anything that could damage the seal on the countershaft. Avoid the seal. This is the rust from fretting. For sprockets, we turn to SuperSprox. This front sprocket features a case-hardened core. Lightning holes provide a balance of less weight without compromising the strength. This sprocket is designed to work with the SuperSprox rear sprocket, DID, RK, and Regina chains. The thin film of moly lube will prevent fretting without attracting dirt. Flip the retainer plate to establish a zero wear pattern. Use Loctite 242 on the threads. Secure the bolts and make sure the plate is flush before tightening these two screws. Final torque of 10 foot-pounds is plenty, using a spanner to retain the sprocket while torquing the two bolts. The special Honda lubricant is a moly designed specifically for splines on drive shafts. Wipe off any excess to prevent accumulation of dirt. This is a new Honda chain slider, a durable piece that we know will fit properly. Rather than use the original equipment Phillips head screws, we will substitute socket head screws in this case. These are metric grade 12.9 socket head screws that will hold up much better and be easier to replace as well as install. We use blue medium strength Loctite 242. Do not use Loctite 271 red high strength on aluminum threads, or the threads may pull out when you unscrew the fastener. This is a quick method for getting uniform thread locker on the threads and not wasting material. The socket head screws are turned with a hex wrench. Where a washer is needed, we use a split ring lock washer. Note how much easier it is to turn this screw with an Allen or hex wrench. The hex wrench also makes it much easier to set torque on these fasteners. Snug and uniform torque is much easier to establish with the Allen wrench. The damaged splash guard gets replaced with a genuine Honda piece. Beyond function, this restores the motorcycle's appearance. Now we replace the chain guide slider. This inexpensive part is insurance that the chain will run true and last a long time. The genuine Honda replacement part is our choice for quality and fit. When restoring the final drive system of your motorcycle, don't cut corners. The original equipment design is such that you can flip the guide over and reuse it if necessary. Now the rear axle is removed to access the rear sprocket. Remove the axle nut and then remove the axle shaft, supporting the wheel and tire as you carefully slide the axle shaft from the swing arm. Never force these parts and make sure you keep the shaft in alignment to prevent damage to bearings and seals. The sprocket nuts are inaccessible with a socket, and this is a method for loosening the nuts that mimics an impact driver. Use a plastic sand-filled hammerhead to tap gently on a box-ended wrench and loosen the nuts. Hold the screw with an Allen wrench. Once all the nuts are loose, the sprocket can be removed readily. This sprocket is now aluminum scrap and ready for recycling. Note the scalloping and wear. With weight and durability, our biggest concern, we turn to SuperSprox for both the high-performance sprocket and a bolt kit. This sprocket has a lightweight aluminum core and a hard steel outer ring. This is what we need for the Honda XR650R power. When installing a rear sprocket like this 6-bolt type, start the bolts in cross as you would with an automotive wheel. Torque in cross and final torque in a circular pattern. SuperSprox Stealth will last 3 times longer than an aluminum sprocket and can be anywhere from 10 to 50% lighter than a steel sprocket, depending on the model and tooth number. These sprockets will outlast, outperform, and outshine the competition or your money back. SuperSprox engineers conceived and developed the combination of the two materials and have to date counted 15 or more world titles. If this sprocket is good enough for Mark Koma and Taddy Blazuziak, it's good enough for our cycle. At 310 wet-pounds with a tank of fuel, This 55 horsepower motorcycle has a power-to-weight ratio of 5.6 pounds per horsepower. Add dual sport equipment, luggage and racks, and video camera gear, we need the stamina of the Stealth SuperSprox. Years of tightening fasteners in the field makes it possible to uniformly tighten these bolts and nuts without the use of a torque wrench. If you lack that confidence or experience, you can use a crowfoot offset with an actual torque wrench to set final torque on these bolts and nuts. The SuperSprox fasteners have blue thread locker. There's no need to add additional thread locker. This is a time-saving feature and one more advantage of using the SuperSprox bolt kit. Once final torque is reached, pause for a few minutes and recheck the bolts and nuts. This assures uniform torque and tightness of the sprocket against the hub flange. We'll have no trouble in service with this sprocket. We now have the best of both worlds: the light weight with the aluminum core sprocket and the hard steel outer ring to deliver exceptional service over time. Our riding venues and race course coverage includes single track, two track, open desert enduro type riding, and a lot of asphalt routes in between these venues. This XR650R converted dual sport is a multi-purpose motorcycle. Now we move to the axle and chain adjusters, and in the process discover that both of the adjusters are seizing in the aluminum swing arm. Eventually, after continual attempts to tighten and loosen them, both snapped off. With experience and great care, a titanium bit was run through the center of each of the bolts. The narrow swing arm spacing demanded the use of an extension for the drill bit. Once the bolt material was relieved, an attempt was made with an 8mm by 1.25mm tap to restore the original threads. The aluminum swing arm material was too corroded, and after running a tap through successfully, it was discovered that the threads would not have integrity. The best and better than new solution for both of the thread sets is a stainless steel Time-Sert insert. For this specialized application, Time-Sert created a special kit. The kit consists of 3 pieces of tooling, stainless steel inserts, and installation instructions. The first tool is a precision drill with a collar that cuts a shoulder for the insert. The precision custom tap matches the outer side of the threads in the inserts. The third tool in the kit is the driver. The insert goes over the driver. This new Time-Sert kit contains 11.7 and 14mm length stainless steel thread inserts. Tooling lengths will accommodate the swing arm gap and extend beyond the swing arm to the chuck of the drill. This powerful variable speed drill will slow to a snail's pace, ideal for starting this drill. Use WD-40 for drilling and tapping with these tools. Drill straight and keep the tool from wobbling. You do not want an oversized or irregularly shaped drill hole. With quality tooling like this, the hole is very easy to drill, and the collar sets a chamfer edge that's visible here. The second hole is now drilled using WD-40 as a lubricant for the drill. Note how this custom drill and collar clear the swing arm and the chuck remains outboard of the swing arm end. The chamfered shoulder is actually a counterbore that sets the seat for the insert. Now we tap the hole. The precision tap is easy to rotate with this T-handled ratchet and a square socket. Continue to use WD-40 as a lubricant during the tapping of the hole. This tap is a special tap. It matches the outside thread of the insert. Tapping follows the same procedure as with tapping any other metal. A few threads in, pause and back out the tap to clean the threads and proceed forward again. At no point do you want to bind up the tap. This is aluminum, a relatively soft material. Let the tap cut the metal, not shred it. It is very easy to form threads with a tap of this quality. Lubricate the opposite hole and tap those threads. Follow the same procedure. A few threads in, then back the tap out a quarter turn or so and proceed forward. Allow the tool to form the threads, cutting sharp angles and not removing any excess of material. Take your time here. This is a permanent quality repair, and with stainless steel thread inserts, the fit and longevity of these threads will be far better than the original equipment, especially for a motorcycle exposed to dust, moisture, or humidity. Stainless steel in this hardness is an ideal replacement for the original threads. The threads are precisely formed now, and the chamfer at the top has the same angle as the shoulder of the insert. The driver tool is now lubricated with light motor oil. The insert is installed on the driver tool, and the driver tool threads the insert readily into the threads. The driver tool is turned until the insert seats completely. Then the driver tool is turned several turns past that with considerable resistance as the driver tool presses out the cold-rolled lower threads of the insert and locks the insert into the swing arm thread material. At this point, with the insert threads perfectly formed, the driver tool can easily be extracted from the Time-Sert insert threads. Each of the Time-Sert tools has a square head. This one takes a standard tap T. The others work well with square sockets. The driver comes out readily, but the insert stays in place, secure and with its top just slightly below the surface of the aluminum. Now we insert the second insert. A small amount of oil is applied to the driver threads, and the insert screws readily into the threads of the swing arm. Once resistance is felt, the driver tool continues to turn inward until it seats the insert completely and has flared the cold-rolled threads at the bottom of the insert. Now the driver can be threaded out, and the insert stays in place, with its shoulder perfectly matched to the chamfer in the aluminum, and the top of the insert just slightly countersunk. The slight countersink will allow the flange nut on the adjuster to seat against the aluminum without affecting the insert. This is an optimal fit, where the insert is just slightly below the flange nut, and the insert seats securely and permanently. Stainless steel by itself will resist corrosion. The use of anti-seize, which is graphite-based, will eliminate any risk whatsoever of seizure or any kind of corrosion between the bolts, which are zinc-plated, and the stainless steel inserts. This helps eliminate the risk of these bolts ever seizing again. The inserts in the swing arm are now a permanent solution. We're now ready to install the axle bolt and align the rear axle and wheel assembly. Start with the middle adjustment marks and make sure that the marks are uniform on each side. Align the axle shaft so that the rear wheel is square, and then lightly secure the axle nut. We need a chain that is a good match for the sprockets. We sought out the RK Excel America RK ATV Off-Road XW Ring chain, the GB520 EXW. The GB520 EXW is designed for ATV quads and off-road bikes, and it's the best high-speed extreme heat performance chain we could find. EXW's heat treatment and plate thickness were specifically designed to survive the toughest off-road use. EXW features XW ring seals composed of nitrile butadiene with 3 contact lips and 2 convex inner-outer stabilizers. This means 3 lubrication pools to protect against high-speed abrasion and the loss of lubricant under these extreme conditions. The chain ships in slide over size, and a section needs to be removed. You don't want to remove too much chain. Note the method used here to determine which link is the correct link for cutting the chain. This dual sport motorcycle is plated and often ridden on the highway. For that reason, we're completely comfortable with the use of a master link as opposed to a fully riveted chain, although the RK tool could do either type of connection. Using the median marks on each side of the axle, we use a vernier caliper to bring the axle alignment into a more accurate adjustment. We do a final check to make sure that we have enough axle adjustment as well as correct chain movement before cutting the chain. The method for cutting the new section of chain is exactly the same as breaking the original chain. The RK UCT 2100 tool makes quick work of breaking an old or new chain. In its carrying case, this toolkit can readily be taken to trackside or left in a pickup truck at your off-road riding base. When fitted for dual sport riding, this XR650R Honda has TCI Products luggage racks and Nelson rig bags, which would easily be a stowage space for the RKXL tool. With the pin now pressed through the chain, remove the small pressure bolt and the cutting pin. Now you can remove the extra section of chain. Keep track of the O-rings. With the axle and rear wheel still in the median position, pull the tension out of the chain and make sure the links come together. Note that the chain ends now match up for a master link installation. This fit would be similar if we were using a rivet type connecting link. The master link comes with 4 new O-rings. Install 2 of the O-rings on the pins of the master link. Make sure there's adequate lubrication on both sides of the O-rings before installing the master link with pins through the ends of the chain. Note the unique grease retention XW type rings. Install the outer 2 O-rings and then the outer plate of the master link. A vital piece in the RK tool is the clip plate holder. This adapter holds the clip plate in place and also sets the depth of the clip plate. This prevents damage to the XW rings when installing the master link clip. Here, only the large pressure bolt is used. The plate gets pressed onto the 2 pins evenly and cannot get pressed on too far. Note that when the tool is removed, the depth of the pins through the plate is even and just the right amount. A similar rivet plate holder is included in the RK toolkit. The master link clip fits only one way. The closed end fits forward on the top run of the chain. There are several methods for installing the master link clip. This is one that involves the use of a snap ring pliers. Some squeeze the link endwise with a long-jawed pliers. Whichever method you use, make sure that the clip is seated completely and that the closed end is facing forward on the top run of the chain. A quick check of chain adjustment on this Honda is the 3-finger routine. Note that the fingers are placed right behind the chain slider on the upper side of the swing arm. Chain adjustment also includes a check for the lateral movement of the chain and the alignment of the chain side to side. Make sure the chain comes straight off the sprocket and that the rollers are aligned or on center with the sprocket teeth. This is a good median adjustment of the rear axle. A median axle shaft position, even on both sides, is optimal with the initial 3-finger test of the chain adjustment. Now the chain adjustment is checked with a ruler. We're looking for full movement of the chain up and down, and the setting in our case will be 1 inch to 1.5 inches. For this new chain and a combination of highway and off-road riding, we set the chain to 1 1/8 inch. Final axle nut torque of 69 foot-pounds is set with a torque wrench, and a vernier caliper is used to verify that the adjustment is even side to side. If you suspect that the swing arm is misaligned for any reason, including a bent frame or damaged swing arm pivot bearings, check the side-to-side measurement from the swing arm pivot to the center of the rear axle bolt. This motorcycle's frame, swing arm, and rear axle are in alignment. The front sprocket guard can be installed now. Torque the bolts, in this case, to 9 foot-pounds. These bolts are 6 millimeter fine thread. Make a final check of the sliders, the rollers, and other parts involved with the final drive system. The guide rollers must turn freely, and the sliders should be holding the chain in alignment. With the axle bolt torqued into position, you can now set slight tension on the adjusters and cinch down the flange nut. Make this secure. It's simply a backup to the axle shaft alignment. This is an optimal position for the axle shaft, with plenty of adjustment available in either direction. Considering the wear on the original chain, this system is now safer, more reliable, and ready to deliver exceptional service for a very long time. Instructions for proper cleaning and lubrication are provided in the chain kit.